Hello everyone, this is Crota giving you a shoutcast in a game between AT and Socke versus LiquidTLO here on Shakuras Plateau. Very much excited to watch this particular game. We see Socke spawning as the yellow Protoss player here on the top left-hand side of the map. Meanwhile, LiquidTLO spawning on the top right-hand side of the map as the red Terran player. And yes, for once, left side of the map Socke, right side of the map TLO, and I will not get confused, hopefully misnaming and misreading things. Now, a couple of things to note. This is part of patch 1.3.6, just in case you are watching this a little bit further along than trying to keep up with me as I come out with these videos. I do cast a lot of videos, so I understand if you do not watch every one of the videos, but very much appreciated for all you guys who do in fact go back and archive, and when you guys miss some of the videos, do watch them. It definitely does help me out a lot. Anyways, let's talk about the game. Terran versus Protoss. We'll see what these players are going to be trying to do. Both players building rather close to their home base so far. Socke opting to go for a pylon and now going to move down and scout out with this one particular probe as well. It looks like it will be scouting the top right-hand side of the map first. There is going to be a gateway here, and I'm curious as to what Socke really wants to do with this particular build. It makes a lot of sense that he's not trying to build close to his ramp, as Marines and Marauders would be able to shoot up once they have sight, destroying all of those very critical buildings. TLO, on the other hand, opting to go for, I believe, a standard 13 gas and also going for that barracks as well. The probe will be able to come in, do perhaps a little bit of harassment, but it's not going to really be able to engage all too much as an SCV now finally moves away. One probe now still wandering around on the inside, taking a look. Perhaps we'll try to do a gas steal. It doesn't look like it. We are upgrading to an orbital command, so TLO really hasn't tipped his hand as of yet. Now, in Terran versus Protoss, this is one of those matchups where you really have to respond to your opponent and get a lot of scouting information to figure out what they're doing and what they're trying to go for. Protoss players, you generally need to see what that all-important third building will be. You also need to keep track of the amount of gas that your opponent has. If your opponent does have a lot of gas, then they can either 3-gate expand, or they could be trying to go for into some tech play, perhaps with the robotics facility for Immortals and Colossi, or go into an early Void Ray. But normally the early Void Ray does not work all too well against Terran, as Terran players do have those Marines. It looks like TLO will be opting for an early command center down here on the low ground. You can see the SCV currently mining. It may turn around. No, not yes. Going to turn around and build that command center with those additional minerals in his hand. Meanwhile, we do see 2 Marines now. A Marauder is being trained. No concussive shell just quite yet. There's not enough gas. The concussive shell really needs to be completed. Otherwise, that Marauder may get a lot of damage in. You can see currently only 1 SCV on gas, so that's a little bit of an issue there. Are we going to get the concussive shell or perhaps a second Marauder instead? There's only going to be 2 Marines. And 2 Marines definitely beat or are easily beaten by a Zealot, as that Zealot does deal a lot more damage. The Marines are now trying to split up just a little bit more, and there's that micro from TLO maximizing the amount of damage that the Marines were able to do after a nice split. There is going to be a Stalker now, so that Stalker is going to have a little bit of a hard time there, as the Stalker realizes there's a Marauder, and now that Stalker does have to push back as well. We are going into a Reaper, however, so this is a 1 racks expand followed by limiting the gas and then getting this command center down. It looks like the TLO command center will be completed very soon, as that orbital command upgrade and transferring some SCVs will happen in just a moment. Both players with very well-timed builds. It looks like that Reaper will be jumping up that ramp, but will be running straight into a sentry. That is really bad news for that one Reaper. The Reaper wants to get a lot of damage, and oh, there's a force field, and beautifully done by Socke. Socke shutting down that early Reaper. It was able to not able to scout anything at all. Just saw a pylon back over here. We are getting I believe another gateway, as this one Nexus is now up and running. A quick scanner sweep revealing what Socke's strategy is at this point. Very important as well. We can see some Marauders and some Marines are now making their way across the map, and TLO taking a trick out of the Zerg playbook, expanding and triple or double expanding now before the 8-minute mark. So TLO is simply just feigning pressure right now with these Marines and these Marauders. You can see also a reactor being built, so he will be able to double train up Marauders and double train up Marines, and it's going to force Socke to be perhaps playing a little bit more defensively. Because he's going to be playing defensively, he's not going to know about this command center as quickly, and that is really going to give TLO an advantage into the mid game, as TLO now going into more barracks units. The problem with this, though, is that TLO is going to soon be dealing with Colossi. Those Colossi are going to deal a lot of damage, and TLO is just getting his factory into play. It will be quite some time before he has enough Vikings to really challenge those Colossi, as an observer is now being trained up as well. Socke, as soon as he gets the necessary gas, should most likely be training or getting that robotics bay, as you now see Marauders making their way across the map. The Marauder making sure that there is not a third expansion down here in this location. Very, very important. Perhaps going to even check up onto the high ground here, and as soon as he knows that this expansion is going to be very beneficial to him, and he knows that he's going to be up on bases, TLO can almost sit back and just let his macro do the work. An observer now wandering around trying to get a good sight and good information. So far you can see the Reaper did not get any more kills, was able to do a little bit more scouting, and now attempting to destroy another set of destructible rocks here. Not quite sure what this is about. We'll see if he tries to expand into this location, or perhaps tries to siege up from the low ground with some siege tanks. There is an observer still flying around. That starport will be able to grab that reactor in just a moment, as we are now getting some additional supply depots as well. Down over here, TLO not only running off of 2 gas so far compared to the 4 gas of Socke. Socke also getting that robotics bay, as I mentioned, so the facility will be able to start training training those Colossi and getting that extended thermal lance range. We should perhaps see a lot of gas saved up for that research and that first Colossi. Now, back here, you can see a TLO currently mining away with those mules. I really like this play by TLO, making sure to call down mules into his third base. By doing so, he's not going to overmine this location and that quickly, and he will be able to run off of 3 bases a little bit longer. The observer, however, now doing a quick check, will scout out this expansion location here, and this is going to make Socke's heart just absolutely drop. He can see that there is a decent number of SCVs, sees that there are mules. You can see that they already have mined away about 300 resources on some of those mineral patches already. Taking a look at the army count right now, 2,000 versus 1,700, but there is definitely a lot more gas, as we are going to be getting 1 Colossus momentarily. We should have 2 to 3 Colossi in the next 2 to 3 minutes, as I believe they will be chrono boosted out, or at least I'm continually trained as a factory now doing some decent scouting. Socke's robotics bay is currently being revealed. You can see the facility back over here, as we are now going into a Ghost Academy and getting that second all-important starport. Colossi now doing a push throughout the center. There are no Vikings. 1 medevac going to be in a little bit of trouble there. 1 Marauder not getting the memo to leave. Another medevac getting destroyed, as Socke is in a very dominant situation so far. He has that Colossus, and the Colossus is going to counter those units absolutely perfectly. Going to try to engage now using the Marauders and Stim, fighting back and forth, trying to engage as much as possible, but the Colossi are simply overrunning the position right now, and Socke trying to deal damage while he can before TLO gets into such a strong position with his third base. You can see Vikings are currently being trained in the Immortal, now trying to push back up. There's Marauders and Marines back over here. This is going to be a problem. They need to pull back, as another Colossus should be coming in just a moment, as the standing army of Socke is so strong. TLO now trying to mine out of this location. He's going to have a very difficult time, as the Colossus already has 17 kills already, and it looks like it will just continue. More Stalkers have been warped in as well. Vikings are still being added. The SCVs are attempting to run away. Marauders and Marines are now coming in. Are they going to be able to take down any units is the key question. Stalkers are getting destroyed. Vikings now going to be going after this lone Colossi on the far side of the map. That's going to fall very easily, as the Colossi, and now Socke does not have any reinforcements. The pylon is still up. He will be able to warp in additional units, but he will not be able to get any more of those robotics facility units. A Viking now going to try to engage against this Colossus. The Colossus now backing off once more. All of its shields nearly depleted as another proxy pylon now warping into play. TLO in a bit of a pickle now, but you can see TLO is starting to warp in or get more and more units trained off of those barracks. In comes some force fields as well. The units are now trying to return back. There's another Colossus, 2 Colossi, and now going to try to put some pressure in between. The SCVs have absorbed a lot of damage so far, but it looks like Socke being very concerted in trying to deal damage to the Marauders instead. This one Colossus is down to 120 hit points there, as this Nexus, or this command center, orbital command, excuse me, is about to be destroyed. SCVs are down over here. It looks like the Stalkers and the Zealots will be able to cause this to burn to a crisp in just a moment. Mass Marauders and Medivacs now pushing through. You can see more damage still to be had. There's a couple more units now coming in, and now in come the Marauders. The Marauders need to focus down that Colossus. Stalkers are getting destroyed, and now the Medivacs are trying to pull away. Another Colossus coming in, gonna go after that very weak Colossus. Down it goes as the Stalkers are getting destroyed as well, as the Stalkers are trying to engage and will be able to deal even more damage once again. This orbital command is dangerously low on hit points. As you can see, the Marauders are trying to deal damage. Going to be shutting down a couple of these Stalkers as well. Down goes another Stalker, now going after some probes. Going to try to take down the Nexus. The Nexus is dangerously low on hit points. They are going to continue to stim. The Colossus may not be able to get over, and Socke looks like he will also lose his Nexus as well. Both players now running off of 2 bases. A mule now being called into play to try to repair this orbital command. Is it going to repair in time? It looks like it should. There you go. The orbital command now getting repaired once again. SCV is also coming over to lend in another hand, but TLO is currently behind in food. 93 to 123, as more Vikings and Colossi are still being trained. These Colossi have dealt a terrible blow, as another Nexus now warping in to try to get back into this economic game. Marauder is going to try to engage, perhaps focus down that Colossi. The Colossi being able to pull back once again. The Marauders now having the cover of those force fields for a little while as the Colossi finally break it. There is a missile turret here. The both sides are going to be engaging as the one missile turret does get destroyed. Another force field on the ramp. The Vikings are going to try to engage, perhaps shut down the rest of these Colossus over here, but that one Viking looks like it will get destroyed. 3 Colossi may be too much, and TLO says GG. TLO with a very aggressive third base, expanding at the 6-minute mark. Socke instantaneously realizing this with that observer, and then knew that his opponent was not going to have as large of an army as he did. So Socke, with that very small window, attacked with only 1 Colossus at first and able to deal a lot of damage. Very well played by Socke, realizing that he didn't have the time to get that all-important 2nd and 3rd Colossi. Otherwise, TLO would have responded with a lot more Vikings. Socke attacked and struck while the iron was hot and was able to deal a very fatal blow. Socke expanded by himself as well. TLO was able to counter that expansion, but ended up losing all of his Marauders. Socke then, knowing that he was ahead, most likely because his opponent's units were stretched a little bit too thin, able to come back with 3 Colossi and take the win. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed this 1v1 replay between Socke and TLO. Stay tuned for Game 2.